second. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate a remarkable milestone, 25 years of Xlear Incorporated. We began as a bold idea rooted in science, and a commitment to public health has grown into a trusted brand recognized around the world. We're honored today to be joined by Dr. Lon Jones, inventor of Xlear nasal spray, Nathan Jones, the founder and CEO of Xlear Inc., and Shad Slaughter, the president of Xlear Inc. This is more than a celebration, it's an opportunity to reflect on the legacy and innovation, integrity, and the impact that Xlear has brought to the families and communities over the past 2.5 decades. Let's begin with a few questions and look back on the journey, understand the science, and explore what lies ahead. If at any time, any of you that are here with the press or media have questions, please send those forward and we'll begin. So we're going to start with some priority questions here with Nate. When you founded Xlear, did you ever imagine what it would grow into today?
Yes.
Tell us how.
It takes a second to get them started.
Well, we started it 25 years ago. We hoped that it would actually take off faster than it has, because the idea of nasal hygiene, washing your nose as a way to be healthy and stay healthy is just as simple, if not even more commonsensical than washing our hands as a way to stay healthy through hygiene, or brushing our teeth, because most of the pathogens, most of the bacteria and viruses that cause us to get sick actually enter through our nose. So it actually makes more sense to wash our nose than it does to wash our hands or brush our teeth. And I think it, we need to do a better job of actually conveying that message. But you got government regulators that don't allow you to make those statements.
Good. Thank you. Dr. Jones, can you give us a little history of what inspired you to develop Xlear nasal spray?
Yes. In 1996, I had a granddaughter that was born, and she had an eventful early childhood, but when Mom went back to teaching school the following September, and she was born in March, she promptly went to a daycare and started getting ear infections. And my wife, Jerry Bozeman, was a special ed teacher who had looked at the medical records of many of her students and found that they had, lots of them, had chronic ear infections when they were young. And she told me that if I really cared about kids, I'd find a way to prevent ear infections and the problems in special ed that she saw follow them. And shortly after that, I read of a study in Finland where kids chew gum with xylitol in school 5 times a day to prevent tooth decay. And some of the parents of those students told their doctors what happened, and the doctors did a study that was published in the British Medical Journal that I read, and I called them and I asked them what they were doing, and they said it worked on the bacteria. My granddaughter was too young to chew gum, so since it worked on the bacteria, I put it in the back of the nose. That's where the bacteria live. And instead of a 40% reduction in ear infections that they saw in Finland, I found a 95% reduction. So I called the FDA and I said, I have a really neat way to clean your nose. And they said, we don't have a category for nose cleaning. What does that do? I told them what it did. It cleans the nose. It prevents all of the problems that begin in your nose. That includes asthma and allergies and sinus infections and ear infections. They said, then it's a drug. So I filed an independent IND, new drug, and that didn't last very long because they turned around and said, well, you need to do these studies and these studies and these studies, each of which would probably cost over $1 million. And I didn't have $1 million, so I called the drug industry, and they were initially interested, but when they found out that the active ingredient was xylitol, something that you can buy and that cannot be patented and profited from, it can't raise the prices to pay for those expensive studies. So the short term of that is that there was no interest in the pharmaceutical industry. So I went to the legal part and was told to sell a nose wash. And that's what Xlear is. And then we started Xlear Incorporated in Texas, so Xlear really has a history of 2 years longer than 25. And do you know what Xlear means? Do you know how it came about, the name?
Tell us that.
All right. When I first found out what xylitol did, I have a Finnish friend living in California, and I called her and I said, tell me about xylitol. And she didn't know what I was talking about. And so I spelled it for her, Xylitol. Oh, xylitol is what she said. She was very familiar with xylitol. So their pronouncing of the letter X is the Eastern European pronunciation, including Greek. It sounds like a soft K. So I made a tribute to the Finns and their use of xylitol, and I used their X in making Xlear. So Xlear is pronounced with the Finnish X. Thank you. All the Finns in the world. And it was such a good name that Nathan took it over. He processed it, talked to his people about it, and they said, that's a good name. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. Nate, back to you. What do you think the public still misunderstands about nasal hygiene and xylitol?
I think that the public, I don't think that the health industry, I mean the physicians and the dentists, I don't think that they're, I don't know how you would say it, fully embracing the idea that hygiene and sanitation matter as much or more than the pharmaceutical industry. You know, I was just talking and you know, if you just do a Google search and ask, or maybe this was an AI, but if you just query what reduction in epidemics and pandemics over the last 100 years is attributable to pharmaceuticals and what's attributable to improvements in hygiene and sanitation, it's 93% hygiene and sanitation improvements and 7% pharmaceuticals. And you would think that our public health agencies would look at that number and say, well, maybe we should spend more time focusing on hygiene and sanitation, but they don't. I mean, even though when you go to the dentist, they're supposed to discuss hygiene with you, how often do you actually get the whole 3 minutes that they're supposed to talk to you about it, or whatever time it is? And your doctors, your physicians, they never talk to you about it. And public health really hasn't been out there talking about it either. So I think there's a lot that we need to do as a public health agencies, and to get the idea that nasal hygiene matters.
Thank you. Shad, we're going to give you a question. What does this milestone of 25 years of Xlear, plus the 2+ years with Dr. Jones that he mentioned, mean to the team at Xlear as a whole?
Having been involved with Xlear for 8 of those 25 years, it's been really interesting to see, first from a personal standpoint, I came in not knowing all of this stuff, and actually not ever using a nasal spray, and I thought a few months after starting I probably should use the product I was working for, and realized that I actually did have, much better breathing and much overall better health when I was using the nasal spray, and even though I didn't realize I had the issue. And so it's been really interesting to see the progression of Xlear, and some of the fights that have had to go on the last 8 years with the FTC, and the company standing firm behind its message, confident in what we're doing, but also some of the noise out there of other companies that do make false claims, or that do say things that aren't quite true, and being able to strongly and boldly make that claim and grow the company based on that, even when there is some skepticism, and even when government agencies are trying to shut down that voice. And so I think having that kind of ethos, and having that core, that regardless of what kind of challenges or things come our way, that we have that grounding, and 25 years is a long time to show. And I mean, one of the funnest things is to go on and look at the reviews of the product after 25 years. I mean, we are a highly reviewed, highly popular product, and people that use it reuse it and continue to use it and see the results. And so we just have a renewed effort now to get that message out to more and more people. Once you try it, it really can change your life.
Thank you. To our press and media guests, if you have questions, please get those prepared. I'm going to ask one more question to Dr. Jones, and then we'll see if you have any questions you'd like to ask. Dr. Jones, in your view, what are the biggest misconceptions people still have about mucus, sinus health, and the body's natural defenses?
Well, that's a broad question. Let me explain, and thank you for inviting me, but I am not a part of Xlear anymore, and never have been involved with this, because my role, and I'm the only one that can talk about my experience, and my experience is what Xlear does for the healthcare system. And the healthcare system is not interested in what Xlear does. Common Sense Medicine is my copyrighted website, commonsensemedicine.org. And on that website, I tell about what xylitol does. And what it does is two major things. First of all, we're told here that it's a nasal wash, and that's the benefit. That's not the benefit. The benefit is osmotically, it pulls water into your airway and optimizes your own normal cleansing mechanism. That cleansing mechanism is made up of the mucus in your nose, the cilia that sweep the mucus out back down your throat where you swallow it and reprocess it, and the airway surface fluid that supports both the cilia that sweep it by making an ocean so they can sweep more easily, and by providing the water for the mucus, which is secreted very dry, to make it the wet, sticky stuff that works. That's why Xlear works. And that most of the people doing the research stick with a 5% solution of xylitol, which is the same concentration in our body, so there is no osmotic pressure to pull it into your airway surface fluid where it works. So 11.5% solution is what Xlear is. That's twice what your body's normal concentration is. That's enough to osmotically pull water into your airway surface fluid. If you want to know who should be using this, pay attention to the humidity in the air that you breathe, because that's critical. And the optimal airway humidity is between 40 and 60%. If it's over 50% in the air that you breathe, you won't get upper respiratory infections. And Xlear restores that optimal level if you use it 3-4 times a day. And currently I'm having research done that will tell us more specifically about that. But that's why it works. And the second reason it works is because from the very beginning, we knew that xylitol had a blocking effect on the transmission of microbes. And it does that with viruses and bacteria, according to the study record. That's information that our public health system and our medical system is ignoring. They don't benefit from it. So ever since we started having third-party payment, our healthcare system has moved more and more to requiring a profit in whatever they do. And that has led to a system that now there is a chasm, according to the Institute of Medicine. There's a chasm between what we pay for and what we get. And we're also involved in a war with microbes, a war that we're not winning, a war that we can't win, because microbes are the titans of life on this earth. It's a cosmic war. And the guy that wrote How to Win a Cosmic War said, don't start one. Well, that's what Pasteur did when he told us about microbes and disease. When you're in a war that you can't win, you try and negotiate. And in a very real sense, negotiating is what xylitol does with microbes. In a very real sense. But people aren't open to that kind of thought. We want to kill them all.
Thank you. I appreciate that and appreciate the disclosure with your relationship. We just invited you because we like you. That's all.
Thank you.
Nate, we have a question for you. What role did Xlear play during the COVID pandemic, and what have you learned since, if any?
I don't know that I've learned anything since. What role did it play? Well, it could have played a much bigger role. Well, nasal hygiene in general could have played a much bigger role if public health had embraced it and if the FTC hadn't been, suing us and sending warning letters out to the other companies in our industry telling us all to shut up. We weren't the only ones that received warning letters. NeilMed, these are our competitors. Navage and some of these other ones did, and they complied and shut up. And we continued to share the studies that were published and the data out there that could help people. And, I would like to think that it could have played a much better role, a much bigger role in helping keeping people healthy if we could, again, get our public health agencies on board with it.
Thank you. One more question, kind of a follow-up. In an area of where health misinformation spreads quickly, how does Xlear ensure scientific integrity and public trust?
I think that one of the best ways and the best things we can do to do that is what we do. We actually list on our webpage. We have a place on our webpage where we encourage people to go. When I do a radio interview or anything like that, I try to encourage people to actually go to our webpage, go to the page where it talks about the studies, and we actually have a paragraph that's a synopsis of what the study is, and then we have a link to where the actual published study is, and we encourage people to go and read up on that. And if anybody has a question about anything that we say, we encourage them to go there and read up on it. And, and if they have a disagreement with us, then bring it to our attention and we'll discuss it with them.
And to add to that, we also have established over 25 years strong relationships with doctors and dentists and hygienists. And so, they are trained to kind of cut through the noise of some claims out there. And for us, if you, especially on our spry side of products, if you ask somebody who's a spry user, a majority of the time they're going to tell you they heard about it from their dentist or their hygienist. And so these relationships are very important because it allows that message to be shared through a trusted individual who has closer relationship with the individual.
Thank you. That leads us into the next one for you, Shad. How is the team involved over the years to support growth, innovation, and customer trust?
I think it's interesting that, the brands, there was certainly an opportunity, I think, early on where in addition to the beneficial side, the functional side of the product, it was also using clean and natural ingredients at a time when the natural food space was starting to grow. And so I think there was, especially on the oral care side, there was a lot of opportunity in filling space that there was not a lot of competition in. So you had the functional benefits of the product along with kind of the natural benefits of the product. It is fascinating. You see trends of consumers, especially with regards to health, come and go. And so trying to identify which of those trends is based on new science and which of those trends is based on kind of the latest and greatest ingredient that is going to be pushed. I think COVID was a monumental one. We saw a lot more interest in, as Americans and the world saw a lot more interest in hygiene products. And so there was a lot of focus on the sinus care side during that and helping with that. And so now I think that the newest kind of, and we've spent a lot of time working with the practitioners, and we're now putting more energy and effort in going straight to the consumer as well, so that it's a kind of a two-pronged approach.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from our media guests that you'd like to ask? Go ahead. If you want to talk louder, I can bring you the microphone.
Dr. David Kobaba from Chicago, Health Quest Radio. Dr. Lon, what's it been like handing the baton to your son, as so many fathers would like to do and fail at it, and have experienced the success that he's had growing something from your seed?
I ran into Nathan when I went to a conference in New Orleans, and he was deep sea diving off of the down in the Gulf of America, doing oil work. And one of the things that happened while he was down there was they dropped one of these 25-ton or 50-ton, I don't know how big they are, concrete blocks on top of his head, and pushed him down into the mud. And he had enough airway to say, "Get this thing off of me," so he survived. But when it came to giving him some rights to market and make Xlear, it wasn't a big decision. I would do just about anything to get him off the bottom of the ocean. But he's done a decent job. He's stuck with it. I applaud his standing up to the Federal Trade Commission. Federal Trade Commission is a perfect example of a pathological organization that takes information and tries to kill it with you. Tries to kill you with it. Said that the wrong way. And that's what common sense medicine is all about, is trying to deal with the disruptions and the pathology of our system, both medical and governmental, because our defenses are critical. Our defenses save us. The first time I knew about what they do was when I started the practice of medicine. And in 1973 is when the information about oral rehydration broke. And it broke because of a study done in Bangladesh. They had done lots of clinical studies with oral rehydration, but there was no profit in it because it's made up of salt, sugar, and water, something you can make in your kitchen. And what made it come to the awareness of the World Health Organization and the CDC, both of which recommend it top line for gastrointestinal illnesses, was a study done in Bangladesh where a wealthy immigrant from Bangladesh went back home, started BROC, Bangladeshi, something to help the people. And they hired women to go into affected communities with cholera and tell the people that were affected to take a pinch of salt, a fistful of sugar, in a glass of water and drink more than you lose. And thousands, if not millions of lives have been saved from cholera since that. And we know it works. People who are aware of it know how to make it. But the system doesn't pay attention because there's no money in it. And our system has to make a profit. And that's okay. We have to make a profit, but we can't manipulate that profit. And manipulating that profit is what our system is doing and what Xlear and other defenses like oral rehydration can resolve if we paid attention to it, if the public knew about it, and if we would concentrate on our defenses rather than trying to fight wars all the time like we're doing.
Thank you. Any other questions from any of our press or media guests?
What emerging trends do you see happening in natural health over the next few years, and where does Xlear fit in that space? We're in better shape when we're halfway in the future.
I think that the emerging trends, the one that I'm the most excited about is that our regulatory agencies are actually getting opened up to anything other than a pharmaceutical as a solution. You know, I think that Robert Kennedy, you know, if he can break the stranglehold that the FDA is under, I mean, you know, the pharmaceutical industry has the FDA in a stranglehold. And if he can break that, you know, I think that the natural solutions that we use for thousands, tens of thousands, millions of eons, you know, they did a fairly decent job. And I think there is a place for pharmaceuticals in the world. I just think that we as a civilization are abusing them by using them, by overusing them. And I think that by going back to more natural things, that we are going to be healthier. I think that if we go back and discuss hygiene and sanitation, all of these things are, I mean, I just think that that's where the future is going to be, and it's going to be in regenerative farming, which is another thing they're looking at.
I also think that along those same lines that people are recognizing that, you know, we spend a lot of the incentives and the time and the energy is spent in managing illness and not necessarily managing health. And I think there's a lot of people waking up to that there are things that you can do, taking, you know, responsibility, changing behavior, and doing those things to prevent illness versus waiting for the illness to happen and then, you know, losing a life savings trying to manage that illness once it's happened. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that. I think that social media increased kind of ability, you know, the democratization of communication and the increased ability to share has opened that up, and you're getting larger groups of people who are taking ownership of their own health versus just being at the whim of the system.
Let me put a plug in for a couple of books that I have written recently. They're both titled Common Sense Medicine. One is talking about what xylitol does, the other is talking about how to deal with our defenses in better ways. And the title of the second book is the subtitle is Make America Healthy Again. I did that before RFK purloined it and stole it away from me. But how you make America healthy again, one of the chief ways is to have the FDA go back to being safe and showing things to be safe. And they've parsed that out to the pharmaceutical industry, which is not as much interested in safety as they are in profit. But how do you determine safety? Back in 1960s, when we had a thalidomide disaster, the FDA improved their safety by requiring double-blind placebo-controlled studies. Those studies may show a little bit of safety, but the most thing that they do is show efficacy. And they're very expensive to show that efficacy. And over the next 10 years, the cost of drugs increased by about 10% a year. And that's why we have a gulf between what we pay for and what we get. And the way to determine safety is to look at it in an evolutionary point of view. Evolution determines something safe and beneficial by whether it prolongs your life. Our life expectancy has been decreasing for the last 3 or 4 years, thanks to the healthcare system. And we need to change that around. And the way that we change our drugs around is to do more animal studies and generational animal studies where you're looking at longevity and life expectancy and whether there are any problems with the offspring, whether there are any problems with the parenting of those children, of those offspring, that we ignore totally in our system today. So think of evolution terms in what is safe or not. And that's an easy step for the FDA if they have the push behind it. And if you and the public interested industry are interested, you can spread that message around. Think of safety, animal studies looking at life expectancy. If it helps the life expectancy of an animal, it should be able to be given to people safely, and the efficacy should be determined by the public health system.
Thank you. We have one question from back here.
Hi, my name is Jenny Weldon. I write freelance for a lot of publications, but I'm just wondering if you have new products in development and what's coming next.
Well, we have one that we're going to reintroduce that I'm actually kind of excited about. It's a dental probiotic. We originally put it out 14 years ago when, where is my daughter? My other one. When she was born. And but my kids enjoyed eating it, but it was a dental probiotic. It was blueberry flavored. It had xylitol. It had vitamin D. It had calcium, glycerophosphate. But it also had dental probiotics. Like everybody's familiar with probiotics for your gut, but you know your gut microbiome really starts in your mouth. And I think that 15 years ago was a little bit ahead of its time, and we're getting that and putting that back on the market, hopefully in the next month or two. Yep.
We also have our cough drop. We've had a cough drop before, but we're actually manufacturing this one at our facility here in American Fork. We improved the formula, and it's better than the cough drops on the market based on the fact that it's not going to hurt your mouth and your teeth as you don't compromise oral health for getting rid of a cough. It helps get rid of the cough. And then if the cough is triggered by bacteria, it will actually help get rid of the source of the cough as well. And so those ones they just shipped out. I think the last pallet's going out today to CVS's. So we're excited about those, and so those are going to become more widely available. And then we have some other stuff in our deep secret project file in works.
Yes, great. Thank you for that. One last question here for Nate. If there's other questions you have, let me know. And then we'd like to invite Mayor Frost, who's the mayor of American Fork, just to come up and make a quick comment here. We appreciate him taking time to be here today. But Nate, what advice would you give other entrepreneurs building health-focused brands with integrity?
Run. No, as long as you're backing it with studies and you're not making wild claims, I think it's a great industry to go into. I mean, one of the things that I tell people all the time is that I don't know of another job that I could have done where, you feel happy because you're making money by keeping people healthy. That's, you're saving people money, you're keeping them healthy. If you're keeping them healthy, you're saving them money because they're not spending money on pharmaceuticals and drugs. They're not missing sick days. They're able to spend quality time with their, mom and dad. I said that for you guys. But no, it's a great industry to be in, and I, find, and as somebody that's an entrepreneur, I think that you can find ways to innovate. Just, I didn't have to because my dad did, and so I just took his idea and ran with it. But since then, even right now, I've got to get going because I'm going over to sit with a bunch of researchers and discuss the future of xylitol and where the research is going with it. So.
Hang on one moment before we let you go to catch that flight. They're holding the plane back, they told me. Mayor Frost, do you have a quick moment up here? We appreciate you taking the time to be here, and if you can just take a minute.
First of all, I'll just say welcome to our city, Dr. Jones. So we call it the land of milk and honey and xylitol. So, no, I've learned a lot just in the few minutes that I've sat here. I mean, we appreciate that you're here. We hope that you'll have enough room to grow here and move it around, but stay home-based right here in American Fork. We call ourselves the hub for a reason. But I think what I have learned as much as anything is just the ability to hit a wall in what you're doing and learn to navigate around it through regulations. I can just hear that story. I'm sure if you would have given up early on and just felt defeated, then this would not be here today. So I commend you for that. I think that's a good lesson for all of us to learn in life, is that we're going to hit those walls. So thank you for operating in our city. And if there's anything the mayor's office can do, I'll say it right now in front of we're here to help support it in any way. So thank you.
We'd like to put up a big sign out front.
Okay, you know what? That's something we can help with, but then again, you hit walls of regulation. The regulation is probably, I can work with you on that. I mean, but now we have probably the state of Utah involved because you're on the I-15 corridor.
We're actually close. I'll talk to you.
Okay, wonderful. I can champion that, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions before we conclude our time? Yes, back here. Did you get that?
How are the state regulations affecting us? Is that what you said? I don't know that there's regulations that are different in the state, more onerous in the state, I guess, than there are in the federal government. I think the federal government is the one that regulates it. I've never in 25 years ever had the state government come in and say, you can't say this or you can't do that. So I don't know how to answer that. Maybe you have.
I mean, I think that there was some frustrations that we were hitting a little bit of a wall during COVID, getting with our state regulators who were managing the reaction to COVID and what we were doing. I think that would have been a little bit nicer to have some more dialogue with them, but they were under pressure to follow all the federal mandates, and so I think that still goes back to kind of a federal issue.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today, and we appreciate your time, and especially our guests here. We appreciate it, and we'll conclude at this time. We'll invite the three of you, if you can come down here in front, and Mayor Frost, can you come up here? We're just going to take a quick picture with you and our three panelists up here. And that concludes it. Thank you very much. As soon as your picture's done, you're going.